Okay, people, we're going to talk throttle cables on a 12 valve Cummins. This is an industrial engine that I got here, so it didn't really come with any sort of throttle cable setup. It came with like a little box of parts. I'll show you here. It came with some bits and pieces and a couple screws that didn't look like they belonged, and a broken bracket and a couple springs. And either way, I looked at it and I couldn't really figure out how it was supposed to be, so I decided to just make my own from scratch. Let me show you in the truck here. So I'm down in the wheel well because it's already installed. So I did have, let's see if I can show it here. I did have the back piece, just the arm, and I made this other piece to kind of fit on top. That gave me a spot to put a spring, and all I did was I stole one of those like those struts for propping up a hood, and I stole the ball and socket joints off the end of it. So you can see I got the two ball and socket joints right there, and I made this kind of welded together with some square tubing, so it's fully adjustable, so I can adjust and lengthen in both ends. So that's what I did for that side. That's the top. And then on the bottom here, I'm using the factory cruise control. So I'm trying to, so I made this bracket here with the square hole for my actual throttle cable for my pedal, and the round hole here for the cruise control cable. This is just tacked together right now. I'm just trying to figure out the geometry. Anyways, so what I've determined is the top lever there that runs the actual P-pump. That moves. That's got a 6 centimeter throw on it. So, and then the throttle cable, this here is full throttle. So with the pedal right to the floor. That's my mark on the cable there. And then full release or no throttle brings my cable out to here, and that's about an 8 centimeter throw. So I just I made a little diagram on some cardboard, basically, and I crisscrossed the two lines, and wherever they ended up, I made a little plate here, so I know where my fulcrum has to be able to spin that. This end moves 6 centimeters, and that end will move 8 centimeters, basically. And that's right where my pivot point has to be. So I've just got the ball and socket joint on the top end there. And on the bottom, I kind of just made a thing here to run the cable through. So this is essentially going to sit up here. Now I do have a 24 valve out back with the P pump, and I was going to use the whole throttle cable bracket, but it actually bolts into, there's little inserts that go in these threaded holes here to give you mounting points, to give you studs sticking out for that whole plate that kind of goes on. And I didn't really have permission to strip any parts off that engine, so I kind of just used it for inspiration to figure out. And my bracket's actually going to bolt right here, and it's going to kind of hold this right where it needs to be, right here, so it actuates like that. So the stage I'm at right now is I've got my plate here that's going to sit. It's kind of just tacked together This is essentially where I'm going to pivot from, is right here. So that's where I'm at so far. I'm going to do a bit more fabricating, and then I'll pull this back up, and we'll see how it works. Okay, just to show you guys what I did here for my pivot, I got a bolt that fits through that hole, and I put a little groove in there for a snap ring, and it's essentially just going to sit in there, and then I've got a washer that fits super nice, and then I'll throw that little snap ring in there, and I'll basically just weld this to my thing, and then I'll have a pivot right there. So that should work. Just proof of concept, I guess. So I'm going to tack it all together and see what happens, and then we'll get her in the truck and see if it works. Okay, so I've got it installed now. I've just got the spring sitting there just for test purposes, and the other spring I still have to drill a hole for it here, and this spring is probably going to sit somewhere else, but for now it looks like I'm going to get full throw on that. So I've just got the circlip in there, or the snap ring, and there's very minimal play in this, so I think I'll be fine there. And it appears to be pulling that its full throw according to math, so I'm going to fire that up and see how it works, and then I'll figure out how to get the cruise control cable attached to this and find a better spot for that spring. That's the next step. Is the cruise control cable. Essentially, I'm going to need to sit it right there, so I'm going to build a little arm off of here, but it's also going to have to pivot when that swings. So I'm going to pull this off and bring it to the bench and try and build something on there, and that'll be a nice little mounting point for my return spring as well. So just gonna rack my brain on that and see what I can figure out. Okay, so here's what I've come up with for the cruise control cable. I just made a little bracket. I welded another nut on top of my cable catch, and I welded it a tiny bit offset so that the bolt would bottom out, and then I cut that bolt to a specific length. So it's tightened up right now, and it swivels freely. It's got a tiny bit of play, but that'll be just fine, and hopefully my spring will catch on right there and not give me any problems. So we'll stick this back in for a test fit and see what it looks like. All right, well that didn't work. So here's version 2. I've cut off the little spring holder there because it was just pulling this the wrong way. And I've actually taken that Allen head bolt and I drilled the head out, tapped it to an M8, threaded a bolt in there, welded it up. So that's going to that's going to bottom out there and give me a spring hanger. And I welded in the nut onto the bottom that the cruise control cable threads into. So we'll show you how it fits on the truck in a minute. Okay, well that seems to have worked. I can move the throttle back and forth and it looks like it's pulling its full throw and nothing's interfering and the springs are working. So I'm going to take this apart and paint it and put her back together. And I hope that's the end of this section because I'm getting pretty sick of it.